We live in an era defined by data. Our modern minds are conditioned to navigate reality through the lens of empirical evidence, treating only what is verifiable as truly real. This creates a logic firewall, an automatic cognitive defense. It categorizes and rejects unquantifiable concepts, creating a boundary that purely abstract ideas cannot cross. But when we desire a concept like faith without the data to process it, we experience psychological friction. We call this the data vacuum, a pressure that builds when the mind reaches for the infinite but finds no entry point. Pure logic is a closed loop. It cannot dismantle its own firewall from the inside. For the system to change, it requires an anomaly, an external event that the firewall cannot explain away. Consider Jay, a modern intellectual who lived by this code. He possessed a specific religious text, a Gideon Bible, that his internal logic firewall consistently flagged as irrelevant. The tension grew when Jay observed a friend's genuine, lived faith. It was a reality that shouldn't exist according to his rules, creating a crack in his skepticism. Jay decided to test the silence. He formulated a specific, doubt-filled prayer, demanding a physical anomaly, something unexplainable and tangible, to serve as the empirical proof he required. This was a high-stakes psychological wager. He decided that if the universe remained silent, the firewall would seal permanently, and his skepticism would be validated forever. The following morning, Zurich was caught in a severe rainstorm. The streets were slick, and the commute was a struggle through heavy, relentless gray sheets of water. Mid-commute, Jay realized his Gideon Bible was gone. Somewhere between his home and the train, he had lost his possession to the storm. He arrived at the university, a place defined by wide, exposed stone steps. There was no shelter here, no overhang to protect anything from the drenching rain. There, sitting directly on the wet pavement, was a Gideon Bible. But as Jay reached for it, he saw a physical contradiction. The book was bone dry. Surrounded by splashing water and soaked stone, the pages and cover were untouched by the moisture. In a city of umbrellas, this book sat in a localized pocket of impossible dryness. This was the exact empirical data Jay's firewall couldn't process. The paradox of the dry amidst the wet provided the anomaly needed to crash his logic firewall. This wasn't a random glitch in reality. This anomaly follows a specific historical precedent, a mechanism used when reason reaches its limit. Centuries ago, the ancient Book of Judges records a leader named Gideon. Like Jay, he was paralyzed by an analytical mind that demanded verifiable certainty before he would act. Gideon stood on a dusty threshing floor and proposed his own empirical test. He needed a sign that defied the natural laws of his environment. He asked for a wool fleece to be soaked with dew while the ground stayed dry. When that happened, he asked for the reverse, a dry fleece on soaked ground. Both times, the environment yielded. The modern Bible Jay found on that wet pavement bears the name of the very skeptic who first designed the wet and dry test. The link is direct and intentional. We often expect the divine to respond to our demands for proof with silence, yet the historical record shows a surprising willingness to answer. The threshing floor and the Zurich pavement tell the same story. They show a response that spans millennia, meeting two different skeptics in the exact same way. These anomalies aren't scientific laws for everyday life. They are hyper-personalized acts of grace, engineered to reach past a specific mind's blockage and prove that someone is listening. For Jay, the search for a solution was replaced by the presence of a person. His internal world moved from analyzing a puzzle to recognizing a relationship. This demonstrates the character of a creator who is willing to meet the analytical mind on its own ground, using the language of evidence to speak to the heart. If you find yourself behind a firewall of doubt, consider the anomalies in your own life, those moments that logic cannot quite explain away. Lord, thank you for meeting us in our honest questions. We acknowledge our need for evidence, and we thank you for the grace that reaches past our logic to find us. Guide our minds toward the truth of your love, even when it defies our expectations. Amen.